I should have started. Yeah, exactly. With the and actually through the magic of editing, this might be where I began. I should have started without burying the lead. So the reason we're here today, or one of the many reasons we're here today, this friendship has blossomed, is that you made me, as they're seeing on the screen here, over $200,000 through one of these funnels that you built for me, and then you automated a funnel for me, and I was able to build, I think I'm at 14 now funnels from that. And so I should have started there. In fact, when people hear this is probably what they're going to hear the first time. So we're talking about, $250,000 or about now $250,000 in sales. I think it was 235,000 or something to that effect the last time I looked in there. So I want people to be like, why am I listening to this? So I'm going to start there and then work backwards. And so now we've hit the tech component through the magic of editing, which is probably what they're hearing right now. So let's say, and I did, when I came to you, I'm a new customer. I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of walk through the process. I don't know if it's changed since then, but I didn't even know what this term was at the time. So I was like, hey, and so for folks who heard my conversation with Carter Cofield on the Tax-Free Blueprint, we did 2 episodes in Success Loves Speed, if you want to check those out on YouTube. I went to his website from his direction. Just to give some people some background, he was like, "Yo, go download this lead magnet or something like that." I'm not even sure I knew what a lead magnet was at this time. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll go check that out." Like, what the hell is he talking about? Found my way to his website, scrolled down to the bottom, and I saw 773 Designs, I was like, "Oh, this is a really better design, higher performing website, and I'm in the exact same space as Carter. Why does mine suck? Because I'm on WordPress." You might be agnostic, but I'm now a advocate for WordPress every time someone asks me. So that's how the relationship started, and then we started with a wireframe. So can you kind of walk through people, if that process hasn't changed, like why the wireframe, or what is the beginning of the process? They want to begin a website either with you or anybody. What questions should they be asking?
Yeah. Well, it's not so much questions to ask me, it's questions to ask yourself. When you're going to go and spend some time speaking with somebody about what you want your business to do, you don't have to understand exactly how it's supposed to look or exactly how it's supposed to be built, but you do need to understand the goals that you need to hit in order to keep your business in business and your customers happy. And a lot of times what happens is we forget that if we're talking about our website being our home on the web, it is your digital workplace, right? Somebody walks through your brick and mortar, the door of your business, you say hi to them. It should be a very similar process translated to the web. So if I don't start by making sure that, number one, you have an understanding of the things that you are doing on a physical basis, right? Because the other part of a website is that it can help not only, generate more leads, but it also helps filter those in a way that we can connect with your physical systems, or, we have to intervene with a manual process, right? There are still components and pieces of the customer's journey. It's where it's important to interact with a human. So you have to understand where those are in their process. So when I speak with somebody and they know generally what their goals are, they know what their process is, and they know they know where they want to go, and they can explain that to me, then we can help them, because where our magic comes in is we see your company, how you explain it, right? We see it finished, and then we work backwards, kind of how you were just doing in our conversation. So I said, something that is really, really, this is actually what comes out of that first conversation, right? So we have that conversation, we talk through what you want to do, and then what we'll do is we'll go back and we'll sit with the team and we'll talk about how this should look and what we think we should really focus on. And you see tone and feel. I'm not sure if everybody does that or not. That's just something that I believe correct. You can look at, there's all sorts of studies, right? We make emotional decisions. We need factual information in order to do so. But if you're on a site that you get the same facts as another, and this one just makes you feel better, you're probably more apt to choose to go with that one, right? So that's when we put on the tone and feel, and where we get those words are not something that we make up, but from what you tell us. So if we nail it with what the words should be for how somebody should feel when they're on or leave your site or your place on the web, your home, right? If we nail that and we get that right, then we're on the same page right away. And that's so putting it so simply, it gives us the ability to have that conversation in that moment as we're doing that presentation. And then, that last point, that doesn't change. Like, that's the one I love because it always stays there, right? Any presentation I do, it's like how to improve that content and make it easy to fill in the blank, right? I put by, right? So if somebody needs help from what you're, from anything financially, right? They don't know that they need to get themselves out of debt, right? Like they don't realize that there are resources out there, right? Like it's important that we help them feel more comfortable and confident that they found the right place, right? So delivering the right information and all that. I mean, these things all go into it, but to your initial question, it all comes back to making sure that if I need to get help from Marcus Garrett, that he is able to, or that I have an easy way of doing that. I know that when I fill in information here, or I click on this to download this, I know what that's for. I know what I'm going to get next. So that's, it. And remember, right? Go back, meet you where you are, right? If I put a whole laundry list of technical things together here, it's not really considered on my end. There's no need for me to flex like my knowledge muscles of words that aren't in your world, right? So it's important to say, well, let's meet you where you are, right? Like this is understandable because we've had a conversation, we understand the context, and now we're like, okay, here's the bullet points of what we need to do. So let's figure out what's next.
And for the people watching in this case, if you're on the podcast, you can find this at youtube.com/TheMarcusGarrett. This is not like a makeup slide. This is actually the slide that we went through, and kind of the calls to action that came for us was, and I didn't have these things in mind. I talked to another guy. It kind of reminded me back when I feel like I've gotten a little weak with my old age. I can't get tattoos like I used to. I literally don't have the pain tolerance of a younger man anymore, and I've got space that I need to fill. So I don't know I don't know what I'm going to do. But I remember I would go to my tattoo artist, and I'd be like, I got this huge panther on my back, for example, and I'm like, I want this panther. I want to like row, and I want to like kind of tearing and ripping through the skin, and like I would leave, and then 3 days later he would have like this detail drawn out. So I definitely admire people that have the visual execution when I just come through with the wordsmithing, which is, of course, why I have the book out there. And to your point about eliciting emotion, I still, even to this day, have gotten a lot of compliments from that focus that you gave me. I think you were asking me for 3 words that I wanted to describe. I think they're still on the website. 3 words that you wanted me to describe the website. It seems simple, but those are things I had not thought about. I was like, man, I just want a website up. I usually, for the last 10 years, I went to WordPress. I downloaded the basic template. It gets hacked every 3 years. I want something like that. You're like, I think we can do better than that. And so we were able to come up with these next steps in this case. And the reason I wanted to get to this slide is what I have found for you and I is that you're also a business owner too. So can you talk a little bit about how that shapes your conversations and your perspective? I think that's been really instrumental for us.
Yeah. Well, there's a certain amount of respect that you owe yourself and the people around you. And when we started to our conversations, your focus and what you wanted to do, you just have a way about you that, like from moment one, I believed in what you were doing. I believed in you. And I was like, well, I know I can help him. From there, it's just to make sure that I can put it in a way that you understand how you're going to be helped. And that is a lot more difficult when it comes down to it than you realize. But at the end of the day, when I see something like that, I know how much time, effort I've poured into and it's still pouring into the business. And when I see or meet somebody else that is either starting out, doing a veteran, but doing the same, you recognize that relatively quick. And I think that foundationally, right, you can't build a house without pouring your foundation first. So foundationally, we got along on that principle. And, now it's just up to us to keep each other's trust and make sure that, we follow through on the things that we say we're going to do. Right. So it really comes from, I always go back to a quote, right? It goes, success is always a result of earlier efforts, right? Be prepared, right? Be prepared for other people. When I speak with one of my clients and I say, hey, I have, here's X, Y, and Z and the timeline of doing this, it's not necessarily for them. It's for them to tell their manager or their boss or the owner, right? Like people have to be informed. You have to know what's going on. And when somebody above you asks you, says, hey, what's going on here? And you can clearly and concisely tell them whether it's done or not. I mean, that breeds better communication there too. So, straight a little from your point, but
no, I think it's great because I had actually debated if I was going to share this one and I hit the wrong button. So it's going to be, let me get over to it. is later on when we met in person. And that's another thing, like, it's so crazy about the pandemic. You have these relationships where I think we were talking for like half a year before we ever met in person. And we built by that time 20 different pages and websites. Definitely had this one up and running. But when we finally met in person, you gave me a Harvard book guide from Peter Drucker. And I was working my way through that. And I'm at that time 38. I think I was turning 30. I'm 39 now as a recording of this podcast, going on 40. And like I think millennials, I'm a geriatric millennial since I'm on the latter end.
Same.
And I was struggling to find the words, like, what are these feelings, what are these emotions, what am I going through here? And this quote that I have here on the screen, and for those on the podcast, it says, "Today most work," actually it began earlier than that, so let me read the full quote, because he says,
all right,
if you were lucky enough to survive, hold on, I gotta hit my drop voice. If you were lucky enough to survive 40 years of hard work in the mill or on the railroad, you were quite happy to spend the rest of your life doing nothing. Today, however, most work is knowledge work, and knowledge workers are not finished after 40 years on the job. They are merely bored. And, Peter Drucker, for those who are unfamiliar, he's like quintessential, written 39 books, still quoted and cited, and I'm sure business classes all over the world, up to including Ivy League school. You are bored with such a simple concept. Like, I like put the book down and like laid back in the bed. I think I turned the lamp off and went peacefully to sleep that night. And he finishes that quote with, "We hear a great deal of talk about midlife crises," which I've joked with another podcaster is the new millennial resignation, the great resignation, the great remix, and the great, they always come up with something. But it's mostly boredom, because at 45, 5 years from now, six, because the missus called me 40 the other day and I was all offended, shocked, and appalled. Most executives has reached the peak of their business careers and they know it. So once again, the shortened version of the quote: today, most work is knowledge work, and knowledge workers are not finished after 40 years on the job. They are merely bored. And I sent a one out to the newsletter, is that you are not crazy. Like, we work. I'm less than, and this is the unfortunate side of being an auditor. I'm not good at math. I'm good at determining how to use math. And I'm less than 2/3 through my career, and I'm bored out of my mind. And there is, just being real and honest, there's only 2 additional rungs on the career ladder that I can climb, which goes to another quote of, "It is worse to be at a career ladder you don't want to be on than at the bottom of one you're excited about." And so I brought all that together into the website, and you were able to, like you said, elicit an emotional response for me to be excited about something new. And it sort of reminds me, when I was writing the book and I didn't realize it, is I was writing the story of Debt Free or Die Trying while I was living it. I was living the story before I wrote it. And I was doing a career pivot, but I did not have the words to articulate what it was. So once again, I am in your debt, $200,000 in your debt, but I'm also in your debt because you gave me a path to pivot to and be excited about again.
Wow.